I will be presenting my year-long project for software engineering. Before I start, I would like to give you some context regarding the project. For this project, we were developing a piece of software, a web application for a client. And our client is heads a volunteering firm in Melbourne. And the purpose of this project is to build a plugin, a WordPress plugin that helps our client to track her various volunteers, their contribution, and to reach out to her volunteers. Now, to be more specific about the contents of this presentation, in this presentation I will be talking about how we ensure that the software that we develop for our client adhere to the standards that we intended it to in the beginning before we started developing it, and the steps that we undertook to ensure that this happened, which is basically quality assurance. Now, here you can see the various team members of the quality assurance sub-team. We were headed by Shoye. Now, we are responsible for ensuring that our code, the code that is pushed to Bitbucket, which is basically our version control system, works. We write tests to ensure that this code does what it's supposed to. We verify the code against the requirements that this code is supposed to fulfill. We examine pull requests in addition to this. Pull requests are basically requests made by people who expect to push code and merge branches in Bitbucket. And we ensure that these pull requests, the code that we push in each pull request, adheres to the standards and doesn't break the system. And to do this, we have checklists, and I'll be showing you some of the checklists in the later part of the presentation. We perform three kinds of tests on the code. Unit tests, which are basically testing individual classes and functions, and this was done with the help of PHP unit. And we did integration tests, and these are a bit more complicated tests. These involve database calls. And these are performed on a remote server called web test. And there were system tests, which we did manually. I will be going through these tests in detail in the later part of the presentation. The testing framework. Unit tests were made with the help of a piece of software called PHP unit. Now, how does PHP unit work? You need to create a class that extends PHP unit test case, and you need to ensure that you assert something in the functions of this class. And you can test a particular class, like say a model class, a view class, or usually model classes, and you can ensure that the code that has been written works. And this excludes database calls and other more complicated features. These unit tests are run automatically when a pull request is merged with the help of an Atlassian tool called Bamboo. Integration tests were written using Codeception. Codeception is an external tool that we found online, and they are run on a remote virtual machine. This is sort of to simulate how the system would function in a real-time environment, in a real-world environment, and we want to replicate that scenario to ensure that this is a real-world test. System testing was done manually. During each sprint, we would write system test suites, and these suites would contain a set of instructions on what steps should be performed for each test, and those steps were executed, and the results were observed, and a pass or fail result was given to each test. Pull requests. As I mentioned earlier, a pull request is basically a request submitted by someone who wants to merge one branch with another in Bitbucket. The thing about pull requests is that if the code in the branch that the person wants to merge is faulty, this could destroy a working branch should it be merged with it. Now, how do you prevent that? What we do is that we have checklists, and these checklists help us ensure. We have a list of checklists on Confluence, and these checklists give us a list of steps that we need to perform to ensure that we have a list of checklists on Confluence, and these checklists contain a list of steps that we need to perform to ensure that our code adheres to the standards. And here I'm about to show you one of our checklists. This is the backend checklist. And this checklist contains a list of criteria that we need to check our code against to ensure that our backend code, is fit for merging. And every time a quality assurance team member reviews code, he ensures and checks that it adheres to these criteria. Back to the presentation. After the approval, the pull request is merged. Thank you all for listening.